Hey guys, Rick here again with another video for Deep Breath, the Season 8 premiere. If you haven't watched my no spoilers video, then maybe go and check that out first. I'm going to try not to retread the same thoughts too much. I don't want to waste everyone's time watching, 50 million hour videos on the internet. But I figured that this would be a good place to talk about my thoughts about the episode a little bit more frankly, talk about some theories about where the season's going to be going, and talk about some of the connections that it made to the past in ways where I don't have to worry about spoiling the episode because hopefully you've already seen it. So without further ado, let's get into Deep Breath. Okay, so the biggest thing that we need to talk about here is the Doctor's memory is really fucked up right now. So I can't entirely tell if it's going to be coming back entirely, or if it's going to be sort of a running theme of he just doesn't have it all there, or, it takes a while to remember. I hope they don't play it up as like amnesia, but they play it up more as he's a new person and he's just got a couple extra things. Like if you move into a new house and there's a couple extra things in the basement, you kind of reappropriate those or you get rid of them. But either way, there's a couple things left and that's all he's got. Especially because that means we can see characters and enemies come back who we're familiar with, who the Doctor's not going to know very well. So we already know that that River is supposed to come back sometime this season, and not really sure how that's going to work. If it's going to be a dead River, the same as we saw at the series 7 finale, or if it's going to be somewhere in the middle of her life. Which brings us to the ending. The stinger featured the clockwork robot being brought into paradise by a woman who claimed, "Oh, you've just seen my boyfriend."
I hope my boyfriend wasn't too mean to you.
Boyfriend?
I think what they're obviously trying to do there is invoke the fact that that they want you to think that it's Clara. Because, right before they do a lot of talking about, I'm not your boyfriend, or I don't have a boyfriend, all that stuff. She's got black hair, similar looking face. I hope it's not her, because that seems so obvious. And I would feel a little let down if they made it that clear right away that that's what was going on. Though, we also know that Clara is going to be leaving the show at least for a while at the end of the season, or past the end of the season. At the Christmas special, I think, is when they're writing her out. So it could be. I hope it's not. It has the possibility of being an earlier River. The only possible place that could really work would be during her second incarnation. So she was a toddler, and then she grew up into that, the little blonde girl. And we watch her regenerate, but we don't see into what. And when she's Mel's, she talks about how the last time she regenerated, she did it in the streets of New York. So it's hard. It seems like they tried to seal that gap up and make sure that it's all right. You went from Melody, Melody Pond, to Mel's to River, and that was it. But they could find a way to work it in. It's hard to say. It's hard to gauge right now because there's so little information. And she was really fucking creepy right at the end. She does the kind of, the fucking Iceman thing from Top Gun. Like, like that got really, really weird right at the end. Speaking of the clockwork droids too, that was a really cool, that's what I'm talking about. It'd be awesome to have a character come back, or a species come back that the Doctor doesn't recognize, but the audience does. They're sitting in the restaurant, which, for what it's worth, I think it's like McInty's or something. I forget the name of it. Mancini's family restaurant. That scene is amazing. At finally because up to this point, the Doctor and Clara didn't really have any real scenes together. They kind of had scenes at each other. It was a little weird. This was the first honest conversation the two of them had. And they sit and they get into it, and for the first 30 seconds it's kind of uneasy, and they're starting to talk, and then the egomania joke lands, and it just clicks. The chemistry is there. and it's building, and they've got this nice back and forth. It's really cool that Jenna Coleman was brought on specifically to counteract Matt Smith's, like, he just talked really fast, really fast, and she was able to talk right back, and they could snark at each other at lightning speed and blah, 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 blah. So now we've got a doctor that's a lot more deliberate and a lot more slow-paced and a lot more focused, and he's coming up against a companion who just talk. So we get this kind of... I'd say, if anything, it's almost like the reverse of the 10th Doctor and Martha. She was a lot more deliberate. She was very focused, and he was kind of boo off the walls. So we get to see the inverse of that, which is cool. Let's see. But yeah, the Clockwork Droids, the second they were like, oh, look around the restaurant, and you could see, you know, everyone doing these really robotic motions over and over. So they're making the clicking sounds, and my first thought is, oh my God, this is you know, the Clockwork Droids from The Girl in the Fireplace. It's interesting because I forget if there was only just the one. Like, there was the main droid in the episode, but I forget if there were more. But it's that very distinctive, like, tick, 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 you know, clockwork sort of sound. But I wasn't really sure, and I wasn't really sold on it. They go downstairs, and, you know, they see the guy with, like, half of a head, and you see the gears going on inside, and at that point, it seemed to me pretty obvious, like, oh, this has to be the Clockwork Droids. But, you know, there's a lot of times in the show where they'll get really close to doing something and then go somewhere else, so it was nice to see. He pulls out, it looked like a breaker or something. I didn't actually really get a good look, but it said SS Marie Antoinette, and he said, oh, it's the sister ship of the Madame de Pompadour. And he throws it away, which, one, it's confirmation to us that, yes, it's the same class of ship, so it's probably the same species. And you already got some evidence of that because they're talking about harvesting organs to use for the ship, hinting more at it. They're, like, building it over time before they finally just say, like, yes, it's the same. But it's interesting, too, because at first it seems like, oh, he just knows it is the Clockwork Droids. But, so Stephen Moffat wrote The Girl in the Fireplace. And at the end of the episode, it has the Doctor kind of, you know, just wondering to himself and to Rose and to Mickey, you know, if he'll ever know what the ship was all about, what the hell was up with it. And as he flies away, it gets revealed that it's the Madame de Pompadour. But the Doctor doesn't see it. And at the time, I figured it was just like, you know, a wink to the audience, be like, oh yeah, now you get to know something the Doctor never knew. But it almost seems like that was a totally deliberate choice on his part to say, you know, to do that and and bring it back eventually, you know, someday. So whether it was or wasn't, it's a really cool nod. Like, it's one of the more creative, you know, bridging the gap between you know, expanses of the show that I think we've seen so far. But it's interesting to see, you know, the Doctor not really know what's going on, even though there's a lot of evidence right in his face. And this is the sort of thing the 10th Doctor, the 11th Doctor, even the 9th Doctor would have seen. They would have caught it immediately. You know, the 9th Doctor had, you know, encyclopedic knowledge in his head where just vague descriptions, you know, brought him to the Slitheen and, you know.
What else do we know about them? Information.
They're green.
Yep, narrow it down.
A good sense of smell.
Narrow it down.
They can smell adrenaline.
Narrow it down.
The peak technology.
Narrow it down.
The spaceship in the Thames, you said slipstream engine?
Narrow it down.
But so it's nice to see a situation where the audience gets to be smart. We get to sort of follow the mystery and figure it out before he does sometimes, which is good because, you know, you watch a show like Sherlock or you see any crime drama show, they're very careful about the information they give you. For crime dramas and stuff on TV, they give you the information in the same, you know, sense and in the same order that the detectives do, so you can never be really a step ahead of them. In Sherlock, you get the information, but unless you're just a fucking genius, you're going to make some rudimentary connections and that's it. You're not going to know anything until he just says it. This time we get to have a character and a show where the Doctor's smart. He's really fucking smart, and he figured out a way through the episode, but he didn't make the one connection that might have made a bigger difference, and the audience was able to make that connection. So we get to be a little smarter, not a lot smarter, but just a little smarter than the Doctor, who is brilliant beyond, you know, measure. So it's cool to see that. It's a nice touch. It's a nice way for us to experience the show, I guess. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really. Oh, Clara fucking stepping up to the plate in a big way during the confrontation with the half-face man, I think is the name that they're using for the guy. when she stands up to him and says, "Oh, you're gonna kill me? All right, do it."
If the Doctor is still the Doctor, he will have my back. I'm right, Lana. Go on, please, please, God, say I'm right.
Credit where credit's due, she acted the hell out of that scene. I was feeling really nervous for her. Like, and I know, we know when she's going to be leaving the show, so there's no way they were going to kill her right there. But at the same time, in my heart and in my head, I'm just like, oh my God, she's really freaking out, and she's probably about to be killed. And especially after the Doctor just left her in there saying like, oh, I need my screwdriver, I gotta go, and like fades away. You feel the abandonment, because that's the first moment where you're like, oh my God, the Doctor literally just left her behind to die. So she stands up to the bad guy who has way more than enough power to kill her. And that last bit at the end where she's saying like, and if I know nothing else, then is that the Doctor's going to be here. And she reaches back, and that the editing on that scene is perfect, because she just reaches back and you can see her hand starting to shake as she reaches back a lot further, and you're like, oh my God, he might not be there. What the hell is she going to do if she reaches back? And you see the hand, and you're like, yes! And then you get the next shot, and it's a fucking clockwork drawing, and you're like, oh shit, now she's really dead. But you get the reveal, and you get the Doctor, and he's awesome, and he kind of... You get a sense that maybe he was doing it on purpose to make her be braver and make her stand up for herself, but I kind of feel like it was just him trying to use her as a way to get information from them. So, it's a really manipulative Doctor, and where Clara felt really safe with 11, it's clear that she does not feel safe with 12. And really, she shouldn't. She shouldn't feel safe with him. He just put her directly into harm's way in order to make that happen. If she was in real danger, like within a second, if she was about to be killed, I feel like the Doctor would have stepped in, but the way that they put that together, it was kind of in a way where you don't really know. It's really ambiguous. There's a lot of ambiguity going on here, which is exciting, actually, because we've gotten used to a Doctor who does the right thing. Usually, earlier Doctors, especially 11, a little bit of 10, and like once or twice with 9, you see them do something really not good. But you get the sense that they feel like it's their duty to do it. The 12th Doctor, you get the sense that he's just doing it because. Speaking of the ambiguity, we don't actually really know at the end. They have this great... I'm not going to remember the name of the piece of the work, but there's a really classic... I think it's a short story about a gladiator who has to choose between... oh, god damn. I'm going to embarrass the shit out of myself now. He has to choose between... the tiger and something else. He had to choose between the tiger and marrying some other woman, but he's in love with the princess or something, and the king makes him choose between one of those two things, so marry someone else or death. This felt a lot like that. You see the Doctor and the half-faced man up there, and he says, they make it clear, they straight up say, the half-faced man doesn't have the ability to kill himself. It's against his programming, and the Doctor says that it's not in him to murder. That's against how he's wired up too. And then he says that one really cold line where he says, "Well, we know that one of us is lying," and the next shot we get is the robot dead, and we never really see how it happened. So it's really ambiguous. Did the robot actually jump? Did the piece of humanity in him, now that he's full of all these human parts, suddenly just go, oh, I got to do this. I have to, stop killing people. Or did the Doctor just fucking throw him? I think it's something we're going to get an idea of over time. I think that this Doctor is really exciting. And I'm curious to see where the show goes from here. I got my notes in front of me. I feel really bad. Oh, the ending with Matt Smith. It felt so forced. Right at the beginning. It was really forced and really awkward, but they've been hanging on to that footage for a long time, which is really impressive. I understand there was a leak, and everyone kind of knew that was there, which sucks, because Jesus Christ, there's been a lot of leaks and accidental episodes getting released. But it felt really forced at first, like they were really trying to prove to us that 11 and Clara were a team, and they were tight, even though we only got 7 episodes with them. But at the very end, when you see 11 and 12 very nearly meet, you know, you get they walk out and one of them says, "Is that the doctor?" And the other one says, "Is that the doctor?" And she says, "Yes." You know, you get this sense that, you know, 11 realizes that what he does now, he's going to remember later as 12, in the same way that 5 remembered how to get out of Time Crash and remembered it as 10. And on the other side of it, 12 is sort of seeing this window to the past, and he knows that he's got to back off. He can't, you know, even if there's been almost no time difference at all. It's, from the look of it, it's been like a couple weeks maybe, but definitely nothing on the scale that any two doctors meeting have ever, you know, encountered before. And it gets really touching when the doctor basically says, you know, I'm still the same person. I look different and I act different, but I am still me. And you don't accept me for me. You accept me for what I was, and I'm not that, you know, kind of person anymore. But I need you to accept me because I'm nothing if you just see me as a shadow of some other person, which is amazing. And it's a really deep, kind of touching note to end on, because I think a lot of people deal with that. You know, over time, people change. You know, people do different things. You know, everyone has, you know, hobbies, and everyone has stuff that they do, and their personalities are different. I think if I looked at myself 10 years ago, I don't think I would see myself doing this, what I'm doing right now. I don't think I ever would have seen myself getting into entertainment or, you know, film or, you know, reviews or video games, let's play, none of that stuff. I wouldn't do it. I would, you know, expect myself to be doing something completely different. So, you know, we all change over time. And that was a big thing at the end for 11 too, is that everything changes, but it's okay.
We all change. When you think about it, we're all different people, all through our lives. And that's okay, that's good. You've got to keep moving so long as you remember all the people that you used to be.
So it's cool to see that message creep through to this one, where it's still him saying it's gonna be okay. Changes happen, but I'm still me. So it's a really neat, meaningful message, I think, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. So it was a damn good opening. I was really thrilled to see it in the theaters, and you know, I hope we get to see a lot more really creative uses of the of this new Doctor, of this new cycle of Doctors, and hopefully we get to see him start heading towards Gallifrey, or at least, you know, get on the trail of it at some point too. I think that's about all I have to say about this one. Yeah, hopefully you guys liked this and the other video. I unless you guys really hate it, I think I'm gonna do this every week for the whole season, and if that goes well, maybe I can do, you know, some reviews of some of the older episodes, either, you know, the revival or the original stuff. I've been watching the old stuff steadily over time. I haven't lately, but I've watched the first 10 seasons of the original show, so it's nice to see how this can go from like a janky, you know, no budget 60s B science fiction TV show and become this huge force 50 years later. There's really almost nothing, you know, TV or otherwise. There's very little that can claim that. So it's cool to see the power of Doctor Who, and the fact that you know, in this age of reboots and revivals, not all of them are crap. You know, it's possible for something to come back and arguably be better than it ever was before. So I think that's all that I got. Yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys next week.